Hey Baz, it's so
Hi.
good to have you back here.
Thank you.
How you going?
I'm well.
Good, good. Hey look, it's crazy times we're in.
Yeah.
Everyone is under a lot of pressure. Those people who already experience anxiety, maybe in a diagnosed way, maybe in a general way, that's heightened for a lot of people right now. How do we support the people in our lives who are experiencing a really high sense of anxiety? How do we support them?
I think first off, to recognise how normal it is to be anxious, stressed, worried, concerned.
Right.
That all those words are on a continuum.
Yeah.
And they're a very normal and healthy response, a stress response to something which is a threat to us. If we didn't feel anxiety and stress and fear, then there actually would be something wrong with us.
Yeah.
And so for us to initially, internally know it's normal, it's not abnormal to feel like, wow, what's happening to my world?
Yeah.
Because all my structures are collapsing.
Right.
When we do talk to people and we recognise, oh, they seem really stressed, really anxious about this, I think there are certain ways forward that we can think about the conversation.
Yeah.
One of them certainly is that let's not add fuel to the fire. So fuel to the fire would be, hey, have you heard that the schools might not be closing down?
Right.
Yeah, and are you worried about that?
Right.
Oh, I'm really worried about that as well.
Yeah.
And so what I've just done is, you must be worried about it. And I'm really ramping it up.
Right.
And I'm ranting.
Sure.
And with a 24-hour news service,
Yeah.
we can have this constant input.
Yeah.
And so the only output we have is about the virus.
Yeah.
Now, for someone who is finding it overwhelming anyway, a caring phone call about the virus might be the worst thing, because we've actually just ramped it up. We want to find out how the person is, not how they're coping with COVID-19.
Right.
And so we want to allow them to speak, but let's not ramp it up. When they do speak, we just want to listen to what it's like for them. Often people with anxiety don't have people say to them, what's it like for you?
Yeah.
Because anxiety, like depression, is so common. 1 in 5 Australians will encounter a period of anxiety in the next 12 months. And in a time like now, there'll be more people coming out.
Yeah.
So in this very normal time, we just want to know, what's it like for you?
Yeah.
And what are you anxious about?
Right.
With no judgment, no criticism, no God talk which overwhelms them. Like we said a few times ago, oh, God's in control, which is just...
Don't be anxious, give everything to the Lord.
Yeah. So I just throw Bible verses at you so the person can then just think, oh, okay, so I shouldn't be feeling like this, but I do feel like this.
Right.
So we want to be there just in that initial conversation of being present and hearing what's concerning them. Powerlessness will create anxiety. And in this situation, a lot of people are very powerless. They can't visit dad in the nursing home. They can't go on the expected holiday.
Right.
They can't see the sick relative.
Yeah.
So we just need to allow people to speak about their anxiety. When we've done that and we've allowed them, we've been present, we've just allowed them to speak, and we haven't rebuked them, we haven't ticked them off, we haven't told them you shouldn't feel like this.
Yeah.
Just listen to them. If we work out that really they are hyper anxious, you really need a follow-up phone call.
Sure.
Because connection is one of those things which will really lessen anxiety, where disconnection will heighten anxiety for the person.
Okay. In those conversations, how do we avoid being armchair counsellors or psychologists?
Yeah. I think the first time we spoke, we talked about the goal.
Yeah.
And the goal of a conversation is just get to know you.
Yeah.
You ring me up and just say, how you going, Baz?
Yeah.
And that's your goal.
Yeah.
You're not there to counsel me. You're not there to make me feel better.
Yeah.
You're not make me feel positive.
Yeah.
You're just to hear where I'm at.
Sure.
Now, if you heard someone who is really freaking out, you might say, "Well, have you thought that it might be a good idea to talk to someone about this?" And for many people, they're actually not needing a professional at this stage. They just need someone who they can hear them. Professional support is fantastic, and there's a lot of professional support. And in these days of where we actually can't go out of our homes, many of us, a site like Beyond Blue is a great site to deal with anxiety. And there's quite a few good sites which are connected to Beyond Blue, which would be helpful for people who are locked in their home and feeling really freaked out.
Yeah.
Some of the questions which we might ask, which are helpful for people, are things like, what do you think you can do?
Yeah.
So we give them back control. So for we're not telling them what to do, we're saying, what do you think you could do? And if they say, well, what do you think? You say, well, maybe you could limit how much news you watch. For people who are very anxious, a 24-hour news cycle is disastrous.
Yeah.
They would be better off to say, I only watch the news for half an hour a day,
Yeah.
and that's it.
Yeah.
And I try and not talk about it constantly with everyone. And also to keep their spiritual practices up.
Sure.
Things like read the Bible before you read the newspaper.
Right.
Pray of a morning before you really start freaking out.
Yeah.
And with prayer also to actually say something like, well, maybe read famous written prayers. Or if you read something like the prayer book or so many prayers written through the centuries, we're going to start praying about bigger issues than just our anxiety, and that might be helpful.
And we also have the opportunity to pray with our friend or family over the phone.
Absolutely, yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, we feel nervous about it sometimes, a bit weird, but it can be a really helpful thing.
It's funny, isn't it? It's almost like, can God hear through this device? Of course he can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, if we are hearing how anxious our friend or family or church member is feeling, and our empathy levels make that we're feeling really anxious, or we're feeling pushed, or we're feeling distressed after that phone call perhaps, how do we kind of regulate that emotion? What are some helpful things to do for ourselves?
Well, it's not rocket science, it's all about connection.
Right.
If we think, I'm going to ring up some people, if I've had a conversation which, gee, I found that difficult, make another phone call to someone and say, you don't have to say who you've rung up, nothing, but just say, I've had a conversation with someone and it's kind of ramped up my anxiety, I want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And so the more connected we are, the healthier we'll be as a community, and the least connected, the less healthy we'll be as a community.
Yeah, awesome stuff. Thank you so much, Baz.
Okay, thank you.